Oh, you couldn't hear me. That was our Christmas card. We were so proud of it.
Put her back up there.
Okay. Yeah, but that's weird.
Let's get her muted.
Are we all muted? Oh, no.
Sorry.
We started without you, but didn't realize we were muted. Okay. So Citizens Forum is up first, and there's nothing on to do under Citizens Forum. There's no citizens here. Then we'll move on to reports and board committees. And so we were sitting here wondering if Tim wanted to talk, but he couldn't hear us asking if he wanted to talk. So Tim, do you want to talk about the school forest? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I would
Oh,
love to talk about the school forest, but that was a meeting I was not part of, so I appreciate you calling.
Okay. Were you there?
I was there.
Okay.
I couldn't remember, Tim.
I was there. There wasn't anything new discussed other than the tree planting the sixth graders are going to do, and then the third graders were going to plant flowers. So, and how good of a turnout we had for the candlelight ski. So
Okay.
that was
Do you
good.
have anything?
I think I would just add this, we talked about the ski club and had a, Amy
Yes,
came,
yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
she joined us, and just doesn't know a whole lot about it yet, but it might be a way to get, seems to be a lot of interest in cross-country skiing in the school, and they're doing it during their lunch break, and
Oh, nice.
but it's hard to be great. Yeah, it is. It's cool, but it's hard to be equitable with cross-country skiing because skis are expensive and they're pretty individual. Yeah. So this club might be a way to get access, create access for students.
Because there's some kind of membership and then you get to lease or rent skis
Yes.
for the year, for the season, so.
But we're gonna work on getting more information and seeing what kind of financial commitment.
Would that be through finance or community ed or something?
To be determined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think looking at snowshoe bindings, because the snowshoes that were purchased with the SHIP grant are getting worn out. So we're looking at just getting an assessment of what we need and going from there as far as trying to figure out how to fund the replacement of them. And those do get used during class periods and for gym and stuff like that too.
Okay. If there's nothing else for the school forest committee, we will move on to the superintendent, elementary principals, enrollment report and safe learning plan update.
Okay. Well, enrollment, the high school's up 5 students, elementary's down for a net +4. As far as our safe learning plan update, we're continuing with in-person pre-K through 12. Things have settled down a little bit. We had a couple exposures in the building that required us to have some classrooms quarantined. I think our kindergarten group is the last group that's still out, and I think they come back Thursday. So I think at the end of this week, we'll have all the classes back. There might be a few individual students that are quarantined. But it was just a couple of unlucky situations. It wasn't an outbreak or anything within the building. It was just a couple positive individuals that came in close contact in some classrooms that we thought would be prudent to have all of them quarantined. So, and I haven't heard of any other additional positives that from those exposures. So hopefully we can be done with that kind of stuff moving forward. Any questions on that topic at all, or? And then the
Jeff,
only other,
does the increase of 5 kids at this time of year reflect a new family moving in, or just people coming back from sort of COVID isolation, determining they want to put their kids in school again?
Mary could probably answer it better than I could, but I'm assuming that the 5 that came back were probably previous students that might have been doing online learning possibly and have returned since we went back to in-person.
So
Maybe 3 of those students.
sorry, Jeff. 4
Go
of them
ahead.
were students that the family had left during distance learning and are now back. And they indicated from the beginning when we go back to in-person that they'd most likely be back. And then 1 is a new student from down in the cities.
Any other questions? And then the only other update I have, and I think I mailed this out earlier, or probably this weekend, the capital project levy. We're still digging in. I've contacted the county auditor on getting an estimate on what a special election would cost the district. Waiting to hear back. And then I sent out my weekly schedule to the board. Actually, we'll be in the building here all week, anticipating that. And then committee meetings, March 29th is health and safety. That's coming up. And then I will get out the updated schedule for the other meetings such as policy. That's like the 2nd Monday in April, if I remember right. So that's about all I have, unless there's questions for me.
Okay, all right. Next, we'll move on to high school principal and the
Good
update
evening,
there.
everybody. ACT is scheduled for next week for our juniors, which is taken at school. Diane administers that and all the preliminary steps have been taken for that. And then, when we come back from Easter break, it's MCA testing season will begin right away on April 6th. And Diane's already sent out schedules to elementary and high school with the times and how that will run down. And this year we are going to utilize a couple labs and discussing it with the teachers and looking at what's going to be best to help our students. We want to be able to use the desktops, and Billy has been wonderful about getting those ready for us to use. So between Mrs. Hasbargen's room and Mr. Lane's room, those will be the 2 really testing places for our junior and senior high kids. And then we'll just replace put classes in other places while that's going on so that they'll have a place that really can focus on testing. And teachers have been talking about some incentives they can be doing with their students to really help stress the importance of the test and just really doing your best, because this really is a reflection upon our school when we look at the results. So really want to stress that for the kids to, take their time and do their best on that. And then into April is the ASVAB test for our juniors, and the National Guard does come in and help with that. So they're going to come in ahead of time and talk to the juniors about the importance of that, and then we'll administer it. And then they come back to read the results with the kids to help them understand that. Reading curriculum meetings have been taking place between elementary teachers and I and our 2 English teachers in the high school. And really, we aren't going to look at any recommendations for a curriculum this year. with our elementary teachers receiving the letters training, which they have, everyone who has shared with me has had positive things to say about that training, which they had a full day in March, and then that'll also continue in August, I believe. Really want them to get grounded with that, and we've want to search for some more recommendations of curriculums to look at. So we're looking at them K through, well, senior high, quite frankly, across the board. So we aren't looking at separate ones per grade level, that I have all the teachers looking at the same one so we can get a good read on them for each grade. And then prom, we're doing Grand March, which will be April 24th at 7 o'clock. And then the number of guests to be determined will be based on how many couples are signed up for prom. It's going to be in the gymnasium. We're going to pull out all bleachers on both sides and decorate around that. So it will look different than before, but we'll be able to bring in more people that way. But it's still all limited on following what the guidelines are for events. So we told the kids, and we're telling parents, we're just gonna let them know based on the number of kids sign up, that how many guests can be invited. And it is gonna be by who signed up. It is not gonna be able to be open to the public, but we are looking at live streaming it so that people can tune into it to watch Grand March. And then post prom right now, with the Women of Today, that is scheduled to take place following the prom Grand March at the arena. So it'll be nice to have them in close locations for the kids. The big thing that I want to bring to the board tonight, and to, I'm going to say, hopefully get your approval on, is senior trip. Seniors with Mr. Kraus and Mrs. Moeller have been doing a lot of planning for this. You know, years past, they did a lot of fundraising for it. And we're looking at a trip to Duluth and Minneapolis. It'd be like Friday through Sunday. And we have talked about all the protocols that would need to be in place. I also have spoken to Kay Shell, letting her know so that we could see what our health professionals, if what we are thinking about, they would support. And Kay certainly did give us her okay on it. So they're looking at taking a charter bus. Kids would be seated across, spaced in the rows, one in each end of, you know, the row of seats. I guess one of the fortunate things to help make this possible is the fact that we have a small senior class so that they'd be able to fit on one charter bus. And then looking at motel rooms, there'd only be 2 kids in a room to also help with the distancing with that. Everything else, when we're looking at where they would go and for meals, they'd be following all the protocols that we should be following regardless with what we need to do for COVID. So do you have any questions about any of my report, or especially the senior trip? Do you look at it as a go ahead, or where's the board? How's the board feel about that?
I think it's fine if they're taking all the right precautions.
Oh, yeah. And then, then I'm assuming then all of the leaving the state type things does not apply, since they're just going to Duluth, Minneapolis, which was problematic, which would be problematic, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And to let you know, this has been a topic of discussion at my Northern MASSP meetings. And, you know, most schools don't have seniors going on senior trips, but one of the schools that I believe it's Hallock, that typically they take their kids to DC. They aren't going to DC, but they have okayed a trip for them to go to Mount Rushmore. The other schools, for the most part, it's younger kids that go on trips, and like we're talking 6th, 7th, 8th grade. They are planning on doing those. So we're kind of on board with what our neighbors are doing, if you okay it.
Is there a formal approval? that we
Yeah,
need
because
to
there's
do?
nothing in the agenda, as long as it's a understanding, a consensus. Okay, at this meeting? Okay,
or we could add it as an agenda item. I don't know if we've approved it in the past.
I don't think we've ever approved it.
No, I don't think so either.
So I would just say if there's any concerns that it's raised now and address them.
So Tim or Carla or Boyd, are there any questions or concerns?
Well, with the change in venue, do they have the money they needed for fundraising?
Yes, yep. Their funds are looking very good, so
And that's without going to the county board?
correct.
And
Yeah,
yes,
overall, I mean, another possibility, if all the kids take a COVID test, say before they leave and it's all negative, I mean, could they even do away with some of the social distancing on the bus, which will probably happen anyway?
I would say no. I think we still have to say we have to follow what it is. You know, I'll get that from the kids in school. And I mean, I can say I've been vaccinated, but we're still going to follow every protocol at school that we need to until it's been lifted for us.
I'm good with it. I appreciate the crossing of the Ts, you know, going down the line and finding out all the protocols and informing everybody who should be informed of what the plans are and getting them approved. So it's the way it should be done. And that.
So Mr. Kraus as advisor has sent a message to senior parents. After tonight's meeting, I will let him know to go forward, Mr. Kraus and Mrs. Moeller, with further details. And I thank you very much because I know they have worked hard. I know it has been a tough time for our seniors because as juniors, as we all know, their year was cut short last year. So I'm really grateful and glad to see that they can move forward with this. It will definitely be a highlight of a way to end their time at Lake of the Woods.
Okay, so is that all? That's all you have, Mary?
Yes, unless you have any other questions for me.
I don't think anyone does. Okay, then we'll move on to the business
I have a
office.
question for, hey, hang on. I have a question about, do you have any idea how many of those juniors have signed up to take the ACT?
I do not. I'm sorry.
I'm making the assumption that this ACT, the March ACT for a junior class is probably pretty indicative of kids who are thinking of going to college.
Yes, absolutely. And I know
Alright.
there's been a
Now, I'm
high
cur-
number of, sorry, Tim. There's
Oh,
been a high number
go
of
ahead.
juniors I know that have been meeting with Diane.
Okay, just sort of, I'll ask you again after it's done and just, you know, see what numbers showed up for that, just get an idea what our kids are thinking about.
And I can ask her tomorrow and send the board members an email.
No rush. Once again, it's just informative if nothing else.
Okay. Crystal?
So at the finance committee today, we went through February's monthly budget report. And looking through it, most of the variances are things that are going to be adjusted when we do the revised budget. But we did, when we went through it, notice that the food service fund, community ed fund, and debt service fund are not reflecting correctly on June 30th, 2020. So I'm going to be in contact with Todd at Forecast 5 so we can get that adjusted, because right now it's showing that last year we ended with a deficit of 521 over the course of the funds, which is not correct. So I am going to be talking with Todd as far as that goes. We also discussed about in April board meeting, the April board meeting to bring a request for funds transfer of that operating capital and safe schools, because this is the only year they allow us to transfer those funds. We will transfer those to assigned fund balances rather than into the general fund. And then at year end, we can determine if we want to move those back into operating capital and safe schools, or if we need to utilize those to build the fund balance. We also discussed the ESSER funds. The ESSER funds 1 are the only one that we actually know how much we're getting. So we kind of agreed upon that we'll utilize those funds this year to hopefully build that fund balance as well. The ESSER 2 funds, that's the one that it was proposed that we'll get around 238,000, but we don't know for sure. And through the MASBO meeting, it sounds like those may not even be available until after July 1. And then the ESSER 3 funds that just came out, we have no idea on that as far as what we're getting, when we're getting it, or anything like that. Then for next year, I am working on setting up budget meetings with the supervisors of each department with Jeff and I, and then the supervisor to determine what they're looking at for next year. And it's looking like our enrollment should be increased by approximately 15 students next year, based upon the fact that we are graduating class of 24 and hopefully bringing in around 40 for kindergarten. And I think that's about everything. Do you have any questions or anything?
I think so. I don't think I have any questions. Does anybody else have any questions?
What are the ESSER funds?
That's the emergency, do you know, I don't know the.
I don't remember exactly what it stands for. The emergency, I can't even think of it right now.
Is it state or federal?
Federal.
Okay.
It's
the
it's
state.
elementary and secondary school emergency relief.
Yes. And then there's the gear funds, which are the governor's something. I don't remember all the names right now, but so between those, the ESSER, we got 67,000 approximately, and through gear, we got approximately 5,600. And those we for sure know, and we need to have that budget done by May 1st to be able to utilize those funds.
And those funds will probably offset the extra costs for additional staff, sub costs and stuff like that.
Okay. Any other questions for Crystal? If not, we will move on to Activities Director Chad Hazelton.
Hello. So sports wrapped up last week. The boys basketball team finished up on Monday with a game against Clearbrook. Girls basketball finished up last Friday against Cass Lake, and boys hockey finished up on Saturday against East Grand Forks. They all did a good job through a difficult year with COVID restrictions and everything that went with it. So just in that aspect, everything was successful, that we were able to make it through with minimal interruptions. Spring sports actually started today with baseball starting their conditioning season, which runs this week, just to get their arms ready for play. Everything else starts next Tuesday or next Monday, the 29th, with track, softball, and golf. I do believe girls golf is probably going to be pushed out 1 week later because they want to wait until they can make sure they can get onto the course for sure. So girls golf will probably start a week later than that. This year with the donations at the door, the free will donations brought in just under $2,000 for the backpack program. So that was a good thing that happened there. We have most of the coaches in place as far as necessary coaching spots. We still have some assistants that may or may not get filled. We've got our junior high golf position filled. Softball will be filled by committee. I'll be there as the licensed head coach, but we've got 3 or 4 other people that are going to be also stepping in and helping with positions. So we'll be filling that out that way. Other than that, that's pretty much all we have going on right now. If anybody has questions about registration, everybody needs to be registered prior to the start of the first practice. You can contact me if they need help with registration. And anybody got any questions?
Okay, no questions. Then we will move on to Buildings and Grounds with Seth.
I don't have a real lot. We did fill the afternoon custodial position finally about 2 weeks ago. I started this week, well, last Friday, actually start walking around the school and doing a building assessment. Just kind of looking how things fared through the winter and how things are handling with weather and everything. And then one of the other things I've been working with the custodial crew to get their thoughts on what's been working, what we need to change for the disinfecting. And, the overall consensus right now is everybody is pretty happy with the way that things are going. It's easy for them and it seems to be doing pretty well. That's about all I got unless there's any questions.
I did want to say one more thing if I can. We've been talking with K-Shell about banquets for the winter sports teams. We are going to be able to move forward with banquets. But the guidance we're getting is that they have to be done at the school with in family pods at tables, and then pre-done food like pizzas or Subway or something like that. So we are going to be able to hold end of the season, wrap up banquets, but that's the protocols that we're going to need to follow for those.
Okay.
I have a question for Chad. What is like the spectator restrictions for the outdoor sports this spring?
We haven't really
Any or
real guidance on that yet, other than the 250. So I believe it's going to be outdoor activities will have a cap of 250 spectators. So that's what I currently have.
Which we wouldn't normally have that many anyways, so, right? Yeah.
No, and outdoors, I think what we'll do for softball and baseball is we will probably encourage people to bring lawn chairs and sit along the foul lines spaced out instead of utilizing bleachers behind home plate, which will allow us to get more spacing. And probably similar for track meets, we'll have an area designated for the teams to have their team camps, and then we'll have areas designated for spectators to watch for the track and field areas too.
Okay. Next is community ed and transportation. Is Brent on?
I don't believe I saw him. He's probably. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So he is just saying he might be at baseball. You can't hear that. So do you have?
I don't have anything.
Okay. And food service with Cece, is she on? I don't think so. No? Okay.
You know, did that position get hired? You're looking for an assistant
The cook,
cook?
I have not heard about that fellow. I don't think so.
We haven't had like any applications for it.
Yes, Jackie's on.
Too.
Yeah, we haven't had any applications for it yet.
Okay.
Is that?
How long is it?
Time.
Yeah, how long has it been open?
And actually, Danny had the paper put in like a more prominent.
Attention.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully that'll help draw some attention to it.
So we're short in the kitchen, and we finally got that evening custodial that Seth mentioned. And we still are advertising for professionals. We're still 1 or 2 people short.
Okay.
Yeah, we will probably need to make some changes if we don't hire someone by next year for sure. The girls are working awfully hard, too hard with one person short, but we're doing the best we can for now. There's extra cleaning, with the COVID, they wash tables 4 times in a day. There's a lot of tables out there. So we're just praying somebody applies. So
Okay.
that's about it.
All right. Thanks, Jackie.
They're a hardworking But they're fun, they have fun out there, so anyone that wants to have fun.
As much as we can.
Good people there, so.
Yeah. All right, well, we've gone through our entire agenda. Is there anything else, or should we adjourn for about a half an hour? Yeah.
Should we talk about the levy discussion and the finances? Can we talk about that at all as far as where next steps and?
Working sessions, so it's not, it's more of an open forum, so if there's questions that people have as far as the levy, I think it's gonna be, could be cost prohibitive to do a special election unless it's something that we deem is really important to do.
Okay,
Um,
that's kind of the, you don't know the cost, but you're anticipating it.
Well, when I spoke to Lorraine, her and Eric had been talking about it. It depends on how many questions we have on the ballot, and they have to go through a company as far as coding and counting and all that stuff. So there's lots of
How many
unknowns.
questions we would have on the ballot,
Yeah,
and how many questions would there be?
I told her between 1 and 3.
Oh.
Depends on how you formulate it and what you're gonna ask.
Okay,
So it could just be 1, or it could be 2, or it could be 3 questions. She discussed a little bit about the presidential primary, which would be fairly similar as far as the number of mail-out ballots. And she thought that was around $20,000 cost.
So you have to know you're gonna be successful at that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's kind of where that piece is at. And it's hard to nail down dollar amounts with some of the federal ESSER dollars that we're getting and what our immediate needs will be. Long term, we're gonna have to do something. Irregardless of that, this one-time money will help us be kind of a stopgap for right now. But long term, on a yearly basis, doing the things that we want to do, we don't have the revenue for that. So something's gonna have to be done eventually. It's just what the timing is.
So I have a question about those SR2 funds. Could that do the IT thing? The one-to-one computer?
It could help with that, but you know, we used some funding for that, and I know that's in the county that
Right.
we did some now.
Uh-huh.
But there's always that 3 to 5 year.
Yeah,
rotation.
and I realize that.
it's ongoing.
I realize that,
It's
but if you
just
could do that initial.
It would help us, it would help get us started.
I mean, that was what I was thinking, if it could do the initial placing them, then there would only be, like a third
Yeah,
every year, a third to, a fifth every year.
yeah, it will help, it just won't.
Yeah.
long term.
No, long-term, it's certainly not gonna do it.
But I do think the refinancing is, irregardless, we're gonna have, I would recommend that we,
that seemed like a
I
win,
mean,
a
that's,
win-win.
we just won't be able to coordinate it with our, with the levy, so. Depending on the timing. There are some things that we can adjust.
So,
The cost savings and postponing them to coincide with the levy bill down the road.
so the refinancing, we did need to take action this year as a board.
Yeah, you'll have to do the bond sale and stuff. I believe that's would be next November. Right.
Yeah,
This coming November.
Yeah,
in 21.
yeah, November 21. If I remember right. Do you remember the dates on that, Crystal, or?
Yeah, that's when we would have to do it, as long as we want to go with the refinancing, which, I mean, it's hard to pass it up with the savings that we can have.
And they were gonna keep us posted as far as,
Any changes in interest? Yeah,
Yes.
because there was that tipping point, right?
yeah.
But then as far as looking at a levy, if, I mean, at 20,000,
Is that a deal breaker or?
Well,
I mean,
no, I mean, because you gotta remember,
the change.
over the 10-year span, it's like $2 million over
Right.
that time that you would be. And I don't know if that $2 million is right, but
Yeah.
like $200,000 a year. You know. I think the one-time expense through the special election, timing's right and the need is there and it's the right time to do it. I think it's would be worth the expense, but it does make you stop and think and make sure that it's something that we want to do and take the steps that make it be successful.
Yeah. Okay, well,
We stretched out 5 more minutes. on
Yeah, we did.
discussion. Any other topics?
How about a different direction? We've really struggled, frustratingly so, and I think Chad's probably leading the charge on this, to get people to step forward for athletic positions. We are obviously struggling in the kitchen, and we worked hard to get a custodial position filled. Is there something, and we always talk about it with teachers, where we advertise to get our best results? Is there something different we should be doing for these more locally generated jobs? Is there a avenue that we're not putting in properly? Should we go to other communities, Warroad, I Falls, Bemidji? Is there something more aggressive we can do? Because it seems to be a trend at this point.
Now, for the custodial, I had talked with Crystal and Danny, and even my wife, she posted stuff on Facebook, you know, to get out to the other communities and stuff. And, you know, we ended up getting somebody from Williams. I don't know if that works or not, but getting a, I think we do agree with you, Tim, we need to get out farther outreach, you know, to see if we can find a bigger base to draw from.
I feel one of our big issues too is competing with the resorts. Because a lot of the resorts now too are even offering benefits and things like that to a lot of their employees, whereas I don't know if they necessarily did before, but it's the compensation that I feel is difficult.
so do we typically, advertise? Oh, I was going to ask, do we typically advertise in the newspaper? And I know that sometimes those ads are put on our Facebook page. Do we advertise like on the Get Hooked for Life website?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, some of these positions are obviously, I mean, the coaches is the difficult one. I don't know if A&I has a newsletter, for instance. There was at one point a woman surfaced out of A&I who was interested in the softball, for instance, and couldn't get her work schedule to show up on that properly, so had to abandon it. But at least there was sort of an interest there, and they are, you know, a little bit further reaching than we are, and they're bringing people in from other areas. The kitchen position and the custodial position both are possibly things people would move here for, you know, they're not just part-time jobs. You know, so I guess I'm willing to spend some money is the point. Like Crystal says, maybe we have to up the ante as well, but at least, you know, maybe getting out to Bemidji or into Warroad and putting it in their local papers and just see what you can generate. It can't be any less, like Jackie said, we haven't had an applicant yet, or Crystal said that somewhere in there, we haven't seen an applicant.
And the kitchen position is part-time? Is it part-time? It's part-time, right?
Is the kitchen, that's the
No, it's
part-time.
full-time.
Oh, it is full-time.
So it have benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess maybe that's something, are we competitive with those positions compared to other districts, with local businesses? You know, are we in the ballpark? Because I think everyone's looking for workers,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
you know, I don't think we're unique in that way.
I could always just send out a Mabo email too, just, seeing what other districts are paying. I don't, maybe they're doing something different too. Just get different ideas from different districts as far as what they're doing to try to get.
Or do they do any different recruiting methods than
Right,
what we're
yeah.
doing?
Or is it a trend and this is what it is and we need to get different methods because you could pay what you want in some cases and you would never be successful because there's
Correct.
just no. And that,
A lot,
Sometimes
too. I mean, with all this COVID stuff that went on, I mean, a lot of people were making more on unemployment than they were, actually working. So I think that was kind of a issue too.
I was about to say something similar, that we'll probably have to wait till the whole COVID thing is over, if it ever is, and might possibly go from there.
I would agree until the incentives on unemployment are gone. I'm guessing that we're gonna have a really hard time filling entry-level positions. I know they started at the store, they're offering a full-time job with benefits, and now they added a sign-on bonus.
They'll pay for your house, they'll pay for your hotel.
Yeah, I know.
I saw that if you work certain evening or night shifts or something. Okay. Well, another few minutes stretched out. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll take a break and will we start a whole new meeting?
I think I will just mute and shut the camera off and
We'll
just
start
leave
again
it
at 7.
as is, or would it be better since it's recorded live to stop it and restart it? People can
It's
fast forward if they wanna
15
watch it,
minutes,
or
yeah.
They can just zip through the black space.
Yeah, we can just mute and,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
From the meeting.
Yeah, I suppose, yes, we'll officially adjourn. I should turn this on too. All right. Well, we'll call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock, and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so first, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion by Johnson.
Okay. There a
Second by
second?
Lyon.
Okay, we have a motion by Johnson and a second by Lyon to approve the agenda as presented. Roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
Robita.
Aye.
Okay, then we have the consent agenda with approval of minutes, approval of invoices and statements, personnel, resignations, retirements, and appointments, which includes the appointment of Kyle Abendroth for evening custodian, Ross Leary for junior high golf coach, and Chad Hazelton for head girls softball coach. And also the resignation of Brent Cole, transportation supervisor and community ed director.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Trask, a motion by Ellis and a second by Trask to approve the consent agenda. Roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
and Robita.
I think I have to abstain from this vote because Kyle is my brother.
Okay.
I think I
Okay.
asked Jeff about it earlier, so.
Yep. Okay, so Robita abstains and motion passes. There are no board presenters and no written communications. And for old business, there's the third reading and adoption of policies 410, family and medical leave policy, 425, staff development, 506, student discipline, 522, student sex non-discrimination, 616, school district system accountability, and 630, weighted grade policy. Do we have a motion for the third reading and adoption of those policies?
I'll make that motion.
Second by Lyon.
So a motion by Trask and a second by Lyon to approve the third reading and adoption of those policies. Roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
and Robita.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the second of three readings to remove policies 407A, health and safety, 426, wellness programs and tools to complete programs, 440, job description, 441, comparable worth. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion by
Robita.
Johnson.
Make that motion. Sorry.
Ellis, and second, who? Oh, is it Carla? Okay. And Carla, to approve the second of three readings to remove those policies. Any further discussion? I've not been calling for any further discussion. I apologize. Any further discussion? Okay, then roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
and Robita?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Next is the second of 3 readings to revise policy 428, time off for public office meetings. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion, Trask.
Trask,
Second by Lyon.
Lyon? Okay, so we have a motion by Trask and a second by Lyon to approve the second of 3 readings to revise policy 428, time off for public office. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
Robita,
Aye.
motion passes. In new business, we have the land lease agreement with Douglas McLeod. Is there anything pretty self-explanatory? This
Yep.
was a
Uh,
$50 land lease, which basically then he just pays it, correct?
Yeah.
And this is something typical that we've
Yes.
done in years
Yeah.
past.
helps.
Well, you say haze it, but doesn't he have the right to plant corn or anything else there too? Or I think that's what I read in the contract, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming that. Maybe I shouldn't assume that.
Yeah, so it's just rental and the lease is for a 5-year period, beginning April 2nd, 2021 through April 1st, 2026.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second to approve that agreement?
Motion by Johnson.
Second by Lyon.
Okay, a motion by Johnson and a second by Lyon to approve the land lease agreement with Douglas McLeod. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
Robita.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Oh, and back to policies. There's, up next is 1 reading and adoption of policies 510, school activities, policy 518, a protocol for screening and treatment of head lice, policy 523, policies incorporated by reference, policy 805, waste reduction and recycling, and policy 905, advertising. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion, Trask.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by Trask and second by Ellis to approve 1 reading and adoption of those policies. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
and Robita.
Aye.
Motion passes. And last on the policies, we need a motion and a second to approve the first of 3 readings of policies 513, student promotion, retention, and program design, and policy 529, staff notification of violent behavior by student. Do we have a motion and a second?
Robita motions.
Second by Lyon.
Okay, motion by Robita and second by Lyon to approve the first of 3 readings of those 2 policies. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask,
Aye.
Sonstergaard, aye. Lyon,
Aye.
Robita,
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Any other business? Okay, well, it's a quick one. We will adjourn at 7:10 PM. Thanks, everybody.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.